The second my dad stood up at the head of the table, I knew he was about to drop something big. He had that same look he used to get right before landing a massive deal, jaw set, one hand gripping his glass of iced tea like it was a mic. We were packed into the old dining room, same place he used to host clients back when Faulkner Electric was still just him, a truck, and a Rolodex full of names scribbled in pencil. It smelled like turkey and pine cleaner, and the wallpaper hadn't changed since Clinton was president. My brother Nate leaned forward with his elbows on the table, half a smirk on his face. He was practically vibrating with anticipation. My sister Jenna sat next to him, already grinning like she'd rehearsed whatever thank you speech she thought she'd be giving. They'd been buzzing all week. "This is it," Nate had told me over drinks 2 nights ago. "Dad's finally passing the torch." Jenna kept saying how she already had a vision board for her modernization plan. Neither of them has ever touched a job site. Jenna has a social media agency that mostly pushes yoga gear, and Nate flips rental properties with contractors he underpays. I just kept my mouth shut, same as always. I sat at the far end between two empty chairs, buttering a roll like I wasn't even there. Dad cleared his throat. "I want to say something," he said, loud enough to quiet the clinking of forks. 30 years ago, I started Faulkner Electric with nothing but a beat-up Dodge, a toolbox, and your mother's support. I missed birthdays, missed vacations, poured everything into this business because I wanted to leave something behind. Nate and Jenna locked eyes, ready to collect. "But," Dad went on, "I've come to a decision. I'm selling the company." Forks dropped. Jenna blinked fast, like she didn't hear him right. Nate froze, then laughed once, sharp and confused. Dad kept going. "It's being sold to a firm out of Denver, Western Ridge Holdings, full acquisition. Deal's already signed." "What the hell are you talking about?" Nate said. "You're selling it?" "To strangers," Jenna added, voice cracking. Dad didn't flinch. "To people who can run it. Neither of you have shown interest in learning the trade. You think this company runs on name alone? It doesn't. It runs on work, and neither of you have done the work. Quick note, before we start, how's your day going and where are you joining from?" Nate's face went red. Jenna's jaw hung open. I just sat there, quiet, watching it all burn. Then Dad said the number. "Sold it for $38 million. Western Ridge takes over in January." The silence after that was the loudest I'd ever heard in that house. "You're joking, right?" Nate snapped, pushing his chair back so hard it thumped against the cabinet behind him. "You sold our company without even talking to us?" Dad stayed calm. "It was never your company." "Bullshit!" Nate's voice cracked. "We grew up in this house listening to you talk about passing it down. You said we'd carry it forward." Jenna wiped her eyes with her napkin. "You said it was about legacy, about family." Dad set his glass down, slow and steady. "Legacy doesn't mean handing the keys to people who haven't earned them. You two treated this company like a backup plan. You never wanted to run it, just collect from it." "That's not true," Jenna cried. "I wanted to help." "How?" Dad cut in. "By doing logos, Instagram posts. That's not helping, Jenna. That's branding. Faulkner Electric isn't a lifestyle brand. It's a contracting firm. Real jobs, real projects, real consequences if you screw it up." Nate pointed a finger across the table. "You're punishing us because we didn't want to spend our lives digging trenches or wiring panels. We have different strengths." "Exactly," Dad said. "Different, not useful to this company. And I'm not risking 30 years of work just to keep it in the family name." Jenna looked like she was about to choke. "So, that's it? You're just walking away from us?" "No," he said. "I'm walking away from the idea that you two were ever serious about this." The table went quiet for a beat. Turkey steam still rose from the platter like the holiday was pretending everything was fine. Then Nate asked it. "So, how much are you giving us?" Dad didn't hesitate. "Nothing." Jenna gasped. "Nothing?" "I built this on my own," Dad said. "Same way my old man gave me nothing. I took out loans, missed payments, almost lost the house twice. No one handed me crap." "So you're just gonna keep all 38 million?" Nate growled. Dad leaned back. "I'm 63. I'm keeping what I built. You want to build something? Get started." I kept my mouth shut through all of it. Like usual, just sat there while Nate's face went red and Jenna looked like she was about to break down. I wasn't surprised. Honestly, I'd seen it coming. They'd always assumed they were next in line just because of their last name. Meanwhile, I'd spent the last 15 years being the quiet one. No drama, no ego, no expectations. Just doing my work. Commercial finance isn't flashy, and I never brought it up. They never asked. I wasn't even sure why I finally spoke. Maybe it was the silence. Maybe it was the smug disbelief on Nate's face. Like, this had to be a joke. I looked across the table and asked one question. Who exactly owns Western Ridge? Dad blinked. What do you mean? I watched him closely. Just curious. You've seen their leadership team? Know their ownership structure? He looked confused, like he hadn't thought about it that deeply. I mean, they're private, based in Denver, good reputation, been around a few years. Why? I leaned back, letting the silence stretch for a second. Because I know who owns it. Dad squinted at me. What are you talking about? Why are you asking who owns it? I shrugged. You said it's private, Denver-based, good rep. He nodded, still looking confused. Yeah, Western Ridge Holdings. I did my research. They've got a solid portfolio, 11 acquisitions, all clean transitions, kept staff in place, didn't gut anyone. That mattered to me. Uh-huh. I nodded slowly, then leaned forward and set my napkin on the plate. You missed one detail, though. Nate groaned. Oh my God, are you seriously doing this right now? I ignored him, locked eyes with Dad. I own Western Ridge. The entire room froze, for real this time. Jenna blinked like she didn't even understand the words. What? I didn't move. I'm the founder. Started it 3 years ago. Nate let out a sharp laugh. No, you didn't. I pulled my phone from my pocket, tapped a few times, then set it on the table. Look, on the screen was the signed acquisition agreement, with both company logos and my name on the Western Ridge side. My full name, clear as day. Dad leaned in and read it, twice. He didn't speak. Jenna's voice cracked. Wait, what is this? I founded Western Ridge to acquire companies like Faulkner Electric, I said. Mid-sized firms with aging owners and no succession plan. Good businesses, not sexy, but solid. The kind of places that survive downturns and keep communities running. You're lying, Nate said, but quieter now. I looked right at him. You think I've been sitting behind a desk pushing spreadsheets for nothing? I've been building something. Quietly, yeah, because nobody ever asked. You two didn't care. You thought I was just the safe one, the background noise. Dad finally spoke. You're telling me the deal I signed, that came from you? I nodded. I made the offer. I hired a third-party intermediary, so there'd be no bias, no backdoor deals, no favoritism. He shook his head slowly. You offered full market value. Above market, technically. I didn't want a discount. Why? Because I wanted to earn it, I said. Not be handed it, not like they expected. Jenna flinched. Nate looked like he'd been slapped. I kept going. I've spent the last 2 years analyzing Faulkner Electric, quietly, respectfully, reviewing financials, vendor contracts, staffing structure. I knew your leadership team was strong, your backlog was solid, and most important, your reputation was clean. It's rare, and I knew it was worth protecting. Dad rubbed his jaw, still staring at the document. You've been working on this for 2 years? Yep. And didn't say a word? Nope. Why now? Because now it's done, I said. Now it's real. I needed you to see it for what it is. Not a family favor, a business deal, a fair one. And I needed you to know I didn't ask for a piece of your company because of blood. I built my own to make this possible. The silence stretched. Nate just sat there, breathing heavy through his nose. Jenna looked completely lost. But Dad, he was different. He was still holding the phone, still staring at the screen. When he finally looked up, his eyes weren't confused anymore. They were locked in, focused. He set the phone down gently. Say that again. I leaned in. I earned it. Dad didn't blink, just stared at me like he was seeing something he hadn't realized was standing in front of him this whole time. He leaned back in his chair, slower this time. You built this. Yourself. I nodded. From scratch. Started in a co-working space in Fort Collins with a used laptop and a lot of caffeine. Took my first deal on a 3-year SBA note with personal guarantees. His eyes narrowed, but not in disbelief, more like he was processing, like he was flipping switches in his head. How many companies have you bought? Faulkner Electric makes 11. We've got 3 in Arizona, 2 in Utah, and 1 in Nevada that's full solar. Altogether, we're managing about $320 million in active revenue. Real estate projects from Colorado Springs to Flagstaff. We've got 2 design-build firms and 1 in heavy civil. Nate scoffed. You're lying. That's not even... Pull up Western Ridge on LinkedIn, I cut in. Or the Secretary of State filings. It's all public. Jenna sat there blinking like she was watching a stranger talk through my face. Dad looked down at the table, quiet for a second, then back at me. Why didn't you ever tell me? I let out a slow breath. Because you wouldn't have believed me. He frowned. Try me. You always saw me as the quiet one, the safe one. You never asked what I actually did. You just knew I had a job in finance and figured that was enough. Dad didn't argue, just watch me. And you too, I said, turning toward Nate and Jenna. You've been mocking me for years. Spreadsheet cowboy. Budget boy. Remember that one, Jenna? She flinched but didn't deny it. While you were laughing, I was reading payroll reports, vendor contracts, lean law updates, learning how businesses actually run. Because I watched you, I said, turning back to Dad. You never made it look easy, but you made it matter. His mouth tightened, like he was fighting something back. You learned that from me? I used to sit in the garage while you went through invoices after dinner, I said. I watched you haggle with suppliers, figure out how to float payroll when a client was late. You taught me the difference between profit and cash flow before I could drive. Dad rubbed his hand over his mouth. So why not just ask to take over, if this was the plan all along? Because I didn't want it handed to me, I said. I didn't want the job just because I had your name. I needed you to respect the business deal, not the bloodline. He sat with that for a long second. Then he nodded, once, like it clicked. You earned it, he said. I didn't say anything. He looked over at Nate and Jenna, then back at me. You're the only one who actually saw what this was. Not just a company, a machine that needs parts, needs fuel, needs care. And a plan for what comes next, I said. He gave me the first real smile I'd seen from him all night, small but solid. God damn, he muttered. You're not the quiet one anymore. Nate finally spoke. His voice wasn't angry now, just low, flat. So, what, we're out? Just like that? I looked at him. What did you think was going to happen? That you'd inherit a $38 million company you never stepped foot in? Jenna crossed her arms. We're your siblings. And Dad's kids, Nate added. That's supposed to mean something. It did, I said. He gave all of us the same shot. I just took mine. Jenna's voice cracked. I thought he'd at least give each of us a third. He didn't owe us a damn thing, I said. He built it, he ran it, and he decided who was ready to carry it forward. She blinked fast and looked away, her jaw clenched. I could see it in their faces. This was the first time either of them had to consider that just being born into the Faulkner family didn't guarantee anything. I leaned forward, elbows on the table. But look, if you're serious, actually serious, I'll make you both an offer. Jenna looked up. Nate raised his eyebrows. Neither said a word. You want in? I asked. Earn it, like everybody else. Entry level. You'll start where the work starts. Nate leaned back in his chair. Doing what exactly? Project coordination, estimating, safety compliance, whatever department needs hands. You'll take a desk, a workload, and a deadline. You'll get a manager who's not me, and you'll have to prove yourself, just like the rest of us did. That's it, Jenna said. No VP titles, no equity. I almost laughed. You thought you'd walk in with executive badges and a view? She didn't answer. This isn't about being in the family, I said. This is about being in the business. Big difference. Nate's face was stiff. You really think we're going to take orders from some guy who used to report to Dad? If you want the job, yeah. He didn't respond. Neither did Jenna. The room just sat there in this weird fog, like the gravity had shifted and nobody knew which way was down. Look, I said, standing up. I'm not here to punish you. I'm just laying out the truth. Faulkner Electric is no longer a family tree. It's part of a bigger machine. If you want to be part of it, grab a wrench. Jenna opened her mouth, then shut it again. I watched both of them take it in, not just the shock of losing what they thought was theirs, but the bigger realization. This was never about inheritance. It was about showing up, and they hadn't. Later that night, after the leftovers were packed and the tension had settled into a quiet kind of exhaustion, Dad tapped me on the arm and nodded toward the back door. "Grab a couple beers," he said. "Let's talk." We stepped out onto the porch. It was cold but clear, the kind of night where you can hear everything: crickets, distant dogs, tires on gravel a few blocks over. He sat down in his old chair, the one with the busted armrest, and I handed him a bottle. We didn't say anything at first, just sat there, drinking, listening to the wind hit the trees behind the fence. Then he finally spoke. "You know," he said, "I always thought you were too quiet for business. Smart, yeah, but not cutthroat." I smiled a little. "I watched you long enough to learn when to speak and when to wait." He laughed under his breath. "Guess you waited just long enough to buy me out." We both took another sip. "I gotta say," he continued, "I'm proud, and I'm surprised. You hid all this under the radar." "I wasn't hiding," I said. "I just wasn't performing. There's a difference." He nodded slowly. "Still, you could have told me. Could have said you wanted in, that you wanted to take over." I looked out at the dark yard. "Would you have taken me seriously?" He didn't answer. "I didn't want to take over Faulkner Electric just because I was your kid," I said. "I wanted to come to the table with something real, something you'd respect." He stared down at the label on his bottle, then looked back at me. "You didn't just bring something real. You brought a whole damn company." I gave a small nod. "That was the goal." He shook his head, not in disbelief anymore, just processing. "So what's next? You planning to change everything?" "Not everything," I said. "Faulkner's solid. Your management team stays, systems stay, brand stays. But we'll centralize vendor contracts, add tech to the back office, get tighter on margins. Expansion? Colorado Springs, Phoenix suburbs, maybe Vegas if the numbers work. Our other firms are already bidding there. Faulkner gives us a clean footprint in this region." He leaned back, eyes scanning the dark, like he could see the map in his head. "And leadership? You running it?" "Eventually I'll put someone in to oversee ops, but for now, I want to stay close. You've got legacy knowledge we can't replace. That's why I want you consulting, not as a figurehead. For real." He smiled for the first time all day, not out of pride or victory, but something quieter. Maybe relief. "I didn't think you were built for this," he said. "But I was wrong." "You weren't wrong," I said. "You just didn't look close enough." He clinked his bottle to mine. "Well, I see it now." By January, the paperwork was finalized, and the Western Ridge name was officially on the letterhead. But Dad didn't disappear like some retired founder shaking hands on the way out. He showed up every morning, not to hover, to help. I put him on contract as a paid consultant, no fluff. His knowledge was too valuable to sideline. He had a notebook with him every day, full of job site notes and contractor quirks no spreadsheet could track. He'd drop stuff like, "Don't put Trevor and Kenny on the same site. They'll kill each other by lunch." And it'd save us thousands in overtime. Nate came on board mid-January, junior project coordinator. First 2 weeks were rough. He showed up in loafers and tried to lead with jokes. But then something shifted. He started listening, asking the right questions. Somewhere around week 4, I saw him on a call walking a client through a schedule delay with no help from anyone. He hung up and just nodded to himself, like he finally felt useful. Jenna stayed freelance. Honestly, I didn't expect her to show up at all, but she did. She asked to sit in on a branding meeting with our design lead, then started mocking up new pitch decks for us. Sleek, modern stuff. Not flashy, just sharp. Clean lines, strong fonts, real professionalism. At first, it was awkward. You could feel the weirdness, like everyone was tiptoeing around the fact we were related. But we pushed through it. I held the line on accountability. Jenna had deadlines, Nate had reports, Dad had meetings. We weren't playing dress up as professionals. We were professionals, who just happened to be family, and it worked. Dad started smiling more. Not that tired "I'm fine" smile he used to wear at holidays. I mean the real one, like when he used to come home after landing a 6-figure bid. Like he knew the thing he built wasn't just alive, it was evolving. Long tables stretched out in front of me, packed with electricians, field techs, office staff, and new hires from every firm we'd pulled into Western Ridge over the last 3 years. This wasn't a fancy ballroom or black tie gala. This was the Faulkner Electric Operations Yard, cleared out and lit up, with folding chairs, paper plates, and a hell of a lot of pride. I cleared my throat. A year ago, this company had one owner, one name, one direction. Today, we've got 10 more names behind it, and a future that doesn't end when one man retires. A few nods, a couple raised bottles. My dad built this company from nothing. No trust fund, no partners, just a truck, some tools, and a stubborn streak. What you all helped him build became Faulkner Electric. I paused, let it land. And what we're building now? It's not just a handover, it's a leveling up, a legacy and a launch pad. To my right, I saw Nate near the back, chatting with one of the foremen, pointing at something on a schedule printout. He looked focused, comfortable even. A few months ago, he didn't know what a submittal was. Now, he had a hard hat in his truck. Off to the side, Jenna was huddled with our marketing lead, flipping through brochure mock-ups on her tablet. I'd seen the early drafts, she had a good eye. Clean lines, strong messaging, nothing cutesy. She finally understood the brand wasn't just about design. It was about trust. And near the front, Dad sat at a table full of old-timers, guys who'd been with him since the 90s. He was laughing, real laughing, not the tired, polite chuckle he used to give at holidays. His hands were moving while he talked, like they used to when he was walking clients through blueprints. I scanned the room and felt it click into place. This wasn't just a dinner. It wasn't some PR stunt. It was a second act, a bigger one. My family didn't walk away with a payout. They got a shot. One they had to earn. One I wanted them to earn. I didn't take over Faulkner Electric. I invested in it. And that investment paid off, not just in contracts or revenue, but in people who finally understood what this business meant. It started with an awkward Thanksgiving dinner and ended here, with respect earned, trust rebuilt, legacy preserved. For the first time in years, we weren't pretending to be a business family. We actually were one.